let's talk movies.
Yeah,
What's next on the agenda?
for sure. All right, so straight up, next coming up, uh, Black Panther 2 has reported from various sources. I'm going to read a summary from these. The Black Panther sequel has a start date. They're going to start filming sometime in Atlanta in July 2021. There has not been a specific press release, but multiple sources are saying that it's going to happen then. And there really hasn't been any news on the production side on how they're going to address the Chadwick Boseman situation. But it is pretty much well stated that the whole cast is coming back. And the only big other news about the project is that a Mexican actor has been tapped to play a major antagonist in the movie. His name is, I believe it is Tencho Huerta. He has notably been in Narcos. Shout out to the fact that he is a dark-skinned Hispanic person. We don't really get that many representations out there. Shout out to dark-skinned people. But there really hasn't been any other news on what the story is gonna be. Drew, did you like the first Black Panther? I thought it was really, 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 really good. Right? It was a really solid first movie. It definitely followed the same tropes that most first movie, Black Panther movies follow. But I thought it was really super solid. I think the performances were outstanding, and I think the ensemble was really good. The directing was solid. What were your thoughts on the first Black Panther?
I yeah. So yeah, I think you were right. The Noche is the way you
The
say this
Notch,
guy's name. The
the Notch,
Noche
yeah,
Huerta.
the Notch Huerta.
Um, if I can get my R's warmed up today.
Yeah, yeah,
But yeah, so no, I love. Sorry, to answer your question. I love Black Panther. Black Panther
yeah,
was a great movie. I think it's what the country needed at that time. I think we need something along those lines. I feel from year to year, 2017 to 2018, Wonder Woman is exactly what we needed from that time. And
for
the
sure.
next summer, I feel like Black Panther is what we needed. I still kind of tear up when we heard the the news of Chadwick Boseman. I literally choked up just over an article being read over the
Yeah, man,
radio
it was such a
of
gut
what he
punch.
did to young black children currently, young African American children all over the world right now, like that. To say that they finally get a superhero that is their
Yeah,
skin tone, it says so much, and it says so much for the same for Wonder Woman, and the whole Marvel universe. Like that says that women can be super too, and for us to now say, like, it doesn't matter what color you are, you can be a superhero as well. That always chokes me up when I say that Chadwick Boseman, had a lot to do with that.
yeah,
I think of him always in that heroic sense. Sorry to get a little off topic, but I loved Black Panther. I think it did great. It definitely set the bar really high. Um, I think you were telling me, I hate to steal it out of your mouth, but that Killmonger was the biggest. Um, Killmonger was like his biggest foe. So like
yeah.
for them to go, well, like, what is next? Like what can be next?
Absolutely.
Like, what do you think is going to happen in the series, man? I have my own ideas. I want to hear yours first.
I love everything you just said. That was fucking great, poignant, and absolutely needed to be said. Yeah, it was a fantastic film, a seminal moment in culture, right? It was amazing that we got to actually witness that. It was such a high culturally that I was glad that I was around for it. You know what I mean? Um,
Yep.
so part of this article also states that it also kind of brings back some old news about Ryan Coogler really wanting Craven the Hunter in the series as well. He really kind of pushed him to try to be in the first movie. Also, of course, there are stories that are told in the Black Panther comic book that does detail Shuri, his sister, taking up the mantle of the Black Panther. We talked about that earlier, and I do believe that that is the most appropriate place to go and take this story. And I think that would be also talk about talk about a movie that has something to aspire to. I do not envy the people behind this movie and the monumental task that they have to both follow a seminal movie in culture, but also try to figure out how to move forward with the story with your main character actor deceased. I such a monumentous thing that you have to go with. But I hope that they go with the series storyline. I think it makes perfect sense. I think it's the right thing to do. And I also think it's another really seminal thing in culture to do. Yes, give his younger sister the mantle of Black Panther. Like, make that a thing. Like, it's on so many levels an incredible cultural feat. And I think if it's done right, and I think they can do it, I think they've got time to breathe. They've got time. That's the thing about tragedy and things like that. It does give you time to really work on the scripts, I hope. Obviously, because they have a start date, like Disney is like, let's go. They're like, let's go, and honestly, got to tell you, the people at Disney, they've been, the reason they're so good is because they listen to the original creators, and they actually take things from the comic books that have been said and done and over again from writers who've been writing this stuff. It is incredible to me how DC just does not want to take any strides from actual comic book lore. And the producers of every Disney Marvel movie have proven that they know what they're doing, and I have high hopes that they will knock this out of the park. And I think I trust in their confidence. They're ready to go.
Yeah, I think they're. I mean, obviously they have some sort of plan since they did announce. They have a start date. And also a side note that I just had to look up was that it is very confusing to me that his father is named Zuri, Zuri, and his sister's name is Shuri, Shuri. And I'm like, I'm always going to confuse that. Like, I'm always going to mess that up. So like, why did we have to do that? Anyway.
Yeah.
Looking it up, just because I looked up the article in 2018 when this is actually out of inverse.com, and they were talking about how they really wanted to, in an interview with Yahoo Movies, actually, Coogler said he would have included in the Kraven the Hunter in the film. And I think that was his idea for the character that we did get, that Hunter-esque robber that we did get. It was kind of like that's what he was kind of feeding from.
Okay.
And so I think, and it wasn't even, and if he really fought hard, I think he could have swung this, because it's not the character in, I didn't read the comic books, but in the version of Black Panther by Christopher Priest, Black Panther fights Kraven the Hunter, but it's not really the original Kraven from the comics that we know of in Spider-Man. It's actually his son who takes on the mantle. So his name's Alyosha Kravinoff. So it's he adopted his father's mantle. And so I think there's still room for that kind of thing. I don't think they're going to go back in that route, but I'm so glad that you brought this up to make me read this article, Arnie, because what I did see is something that I think could happen. And when they do fight in the comic books, it's because T'Challa is in Brooklyn because he's been exiled from Wakanda and usurped he was usurped by an evil warlord, and he's trying to make his way back home. So he became a vigilante in Brooklyn, where he tried building a criminal network while using his skills to lend a helping hand with the Brooklynites. So he was just a vigilante in Brooklyn. And I thought that was so interesting, being exiled and being there. And that also led me to a quote that Disney said, and I don't, like, just take this as you will, but to speak in, sorry, I'm trying to find where I read this.
No, for sure. This is great stuff because it just ties it all back to like the fact that the people behind these movies they actually go back into the comic books and just use those stories.
Yeah.
Like, why is it so hard for all these comic book movies to not just use the stories? There's literally hundreds of them. Thousands, there's thousands of stories. You gotta release a new one every month, every week, depending on the book every week or every month. But yeah,
Yeah. And like the whole thing, I can't find the actual word, so I'm gonna butcher this, but it's basically that in Wakanda theory, or in the nature of Wakanda, death doesn't always mean death, and they use this quote from an article that I read on Looper. They bring that quote up when talking about Killmonger.
yeah,
So for somehow, if you can twist things for Killmonger to come back somehow,
yeah. I've heard that theory as well.
There's going to be there is continuity issues. I've also read with Killmonger did.
He's dead.
Well, he's dead, but he also did kill all the heart-shaped herb.
Yes.
So like, how is someone gonna get the power?
For sure.
He is dead, but like in Wakanda, like, can you really die in Wakanda? Like, it's a magical place, man. Shit can happen.
It's the truth of comic books. Everyone comes back to life. It just happens. No one's really dead. The only people who are dead in comic books are Batman's parents and Uncle Ben.
Right?
That's
Do you know, as a child, how sad I was when Mary Jane died, and then she came back?
Yeah, she came back.
Wait a minute. In another world? Wait, you were
like many of her came back.
Another universe?
There's like,
there's. We could just do that.
Yeah, it's just that's how it is, man. That's the way comic books flow and function.
One last thing, just funny thing. Huerta is like, I read in this article, he's in Narcos, but then they were like trying to say he was in Spectre. Did you know that?
Yeah. I read that part of the article too. He was totally Inspector.
But I love that he was like, they say he was Inspector, yet when I looked up his IMDb, he is Mexican man on lift.
I believe he's actually Spanish, but shout out to dark-skinned Hispanics. All right, we do not get much representation all around here, and I am okay with that.
man on lift though just really goes. It says. I didn't add that word. It says Mexican man on lift. Just want to reiterate that.
Oh man, that character description can no longer exist in Hollywood, ladies and gentlemen. That will not be coming back. Right. Mexican person 3, 4, or 5 will not be back in any character description.
Sorry, I had to add that before we moved on.